My name is Deon LeCointe. I am a product and marketing manager at Sony Electronics Professional Solutions of America division. I generally cover products that include our 4K live products, our IP live transmission products. I also cover our premier studio camera offering for high-end sports and broadcast applications, in addition to our small live production switchers, including the Anycost Touch and our MCS8M. So today what I'd like to talk to you guys about is some of the tools that are available to you as content creators when you're delivering content for the web. Generally, in this type of market, people generally focus more so on their streaming connection before they focus on their production tools. So a lot of people will think about how big is my Wi-Fi pipe or how big is my data connection to the web so I can get my content to the internet for my viewers to catch. And sometimes there's some people who don't, and that's not in every case, but there's some people who don't really pay attention to the acquisition side of their production, because the old saying holds true, it's garbage in, garbage out. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that from the very beginning of the process that you're capturing with the highest quality tools possible. That includes your cameras, that includes your pro audio, that includes your video switching, or whatever your actual switching or production tools are, that you can build your look before you get it to the web and to your end users via mobile or to the computers, what have you. So what I'm going to try to do is go through some of the elements, and I'll try not to make it 100% a product pitch. There will be, of course, some Sony products in here to show you some of the tools that are available to you to help you increase your, let's call it your on-air look for your productions when it comes to streaming. So, of course, the first step in the process is what we call the lens or the camera. What you have in front of you are 4 of our cameras that are currently on the market, or actually 3 of them are currently, one is about to be introduced, the X200, that actually has streaming technology built right in. The PXW-X180 is designed more for ENG applications, or what we call ENG, electronic news gathering. It's for, you know, the news gatherers of the world, so the ABCs, the CBSs, the news of the world. But we have the PXW-X200, the PXW-X180, and the PXW-X70 that either come with Wi-Fi streaming built in, or Wi-Fi available as an option via the CBK-WA100. So now you can actually have a camera that automatically does the streaming for you of your audio and your video in high quality, what we call broadcast quality, to the web, or you can take the output, the baseband output of these cameras, that being HDMI or SDI, and feed that into something like a switcher or a content producer, which I'll get to in a few slides, which again keeps the quality of your video production high, so by the time you're ready to deliver to the web, you're delivering the highest quality product you possibly can before it's encoded and delivered to your end users. The WA100 is actually an adapter that attaches to the camera. So for your cameras that don't have the Wi-Fi functionality built in, it'll actually take the SDI output of the camera and convert it to a Wi-Fi signal on the fly. So now if you have cameras that you already own and you didn't want to make the investment toward a new camera, which is a reasonable expectation, you can get the CBK-WA100, which would take the SDI output and convert it to Wi-Fi. There's 2. There's great question. So 2 applications. One is for remote monitoring, because you can monitor it locally via a localized Wi-Fi cloud on a tablet or a mobile phone. But in an upgrade that's pending, you'll be able to also provide it for content delivery through a service or through a server of some kind through Wi-Fi. Yes. That I'm not sure on, but I think it is dialable, so it is a variable quality setting. It is SDI out into this. I don't remember if there's HDMI as well. I think it's SDI only. That I don't know. That's the great thing about being in my role. I don't need to know the numbers. I just need to know the technology. It's great. But these are all available. You can definitely look it up for more information on our pro.sony.com website. So let's take a look at the X70, because people always assume that when you're talking about broadcast quality, it means expensive, and that's not necessarily true. The X70 is one of those cameras that fall into the affordable range. Of course, actually all the cameras I show you we consider affordable, but this is just some of the specs that you're going to get on the PXW-X70. It is a handy cam, so something that can easily be operated in one hand. It has a 1-inch CMOS chip in the camcorder with a Carl Zeiss lens, built-in ND filters, and it is recording in XAVC, which is a new codec that's easily accepted by any of the nonlinear editors that are out in the market. It's actually easier now to ask which NLE doesn't accept XAVC because they practically all do. And you can record up to 1080 60p. So not only are you able to record and capture in a high quality video for your streaming delivery to your users, you're actually able to record in a format that you can bring into post later for your on-demand delivery as well with a high quality product. HDMI. This actually does have SDI as well. I don't think it's 3G, I think it's 1.5. The next camera will be the PXW-X180. This would be considered a step up from the X70 because it has 3 1/3 inch chips, CMOS chips for the acquisition side. So now you're capturing the red, the green, and the blue with an individual chip for each color within the camera. Also records XAVC and also supports something that we call our MI shoe, the multi-interface shoe. And what that actually allows us to do is you can now directly interface with some of our wireless audio products without the need to run any extra cabling. By attaching the MI shoe to the top of the camera, right there at the normal hot shoe location, you can now attach a wireless receiver, so something like this, the body pack that I'm wearing, without having to run a cable to the input of the camera, it actually automatically connects via a connection on the camera head that actually records to your content on the fly. Yeah. Sure, no, go right ahead, Sean.
How is a 1/3 inch, 3 of them, an upgrade over a single 1 inch? How come you don't have a larger, this type of form factor, 1 inch, or is that something that's...
It's one chip versus, 3 chips are always better than 1 chip. Because with a 1-inch chip, you have to now make a sacrifice of which pixel is capturing red, which pixel is capturing green, and which pixel is capturing blue on that 1-inch chip. But with 3 1/3 inch chips, all the red is going, through the prism, all the red is going to one chip, all the blue is going to one chip, and all the green is going to another chip. So you're actually gonna get better bit definition by capturing through 3 chips than with 1 chip. Because by going to the 1 chip, you may have 1 chip that's catching all 3 colors, but because it's only programmed to capture red, green, or blue, you're gonna lose that other color information that that pixel actually received. Signal to noise with high ISO? Not sure. I don't know the signal to noise information on the 2 cameras at the current time. I would assume the X180 and the X200 have better SNR than the X70. Simply because of the fact that they're using 3 chips and they have a higher bit definition. And then the X200 has 3 half-inch chips. So now this is even better than the previous 2 because again, 3 chips, but bigger chipsets than the previous versions. The next step up would be something like our X500, and that is a 3-chip, 2/3 inch camera. So that's even bigger, and then from there we have our super 35 millimeter chips, which capture in 4K, which is actually, I believe that's the FS700 capturing this presentation right now. The one to your left. The FS. Okay, that's the NEX. Okay, got you. But yeah, we do have super 35 mil chips as well that's capturing 4K. The next logical progression, so this is the information that we're asking about the WA100. It does work in this fashion. You literally output your SDI into the recorder, into the wireless adapter, and then you can plug in something like a Wi-Fi adapter, or you can plug in a 3G cellular adapter for LTE connection as well. And that way you can convert your signal from video to wireless. A lot of people don't take advantage of pan tilt zoom cameras from our view in the market. And these are actually very powerful cameras, especially if you're a 1-person operation. Versus having a camera on tripods, which you have to have someone manning, you can actually have a pan-tilt zoom camera that can capture quite a significant number of angles when you're doing a live production. Something very cool that I'm going to talk about in a second with regards to the Anycost Touch and our pan-tilt zoom cameras is you're also going to want to look for devices that can do camera control. So even if you're sitting behind your switcher for your live stream, or if you're recording it for on-demand delivery later, you're going to want to have the ability to have a joystick attached to something like this. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where your camera person turns out to be sick or they don't show up, and we all know that that has happened, you're going to want to have the ability to control that camera position on your own. We offer cameras that go from conference room cameras all the way up to broadcast cameras that are used on shows like Big Brother and that are used on Lost, that are used on a number of reality shows where you wonder, how in the world are they getting that angle from a camera? There's not a person there, it's actually one of our pan-tilt zoom cameras that are mounted in the corner of the room and completely covered down in gaff tape so no one knows that it's actually there, or they forget that it's actually there. So you can actually get a significant amount of quality from any one of these pan-tilt zoom cameras, and for a one-person operation, you can actually operate it yourself. And these cameras are actually pretty small. They're about this big. They sit on a tabletop very easily. And we're actually introducing one to the market that will output 1080 60p via 3G SDI from one of our pan-tilt zoom cameras as well. That's the SRG 300SE. I believe that's in the sub 4K price point. But these all range from about $2,000 up to about $9,000 list price. And then, of course, pro audio. You can't forget audio. My colleagues in the audio group at Sony would say, you know, what's video without audio? It's security cam footage, and nobody wants to watch security cam footage. So pro audio is an all-important part of the process. You can't just go off of the microphone that's attached to your camera, and you're really going to want to have a good audio complement, because having an annoying buzz in your audio recording or having, you know, dropouts in your audio could really affect the quality of the content that you deliver to your end users. And we offer a full complement of wireless audio and wired audio, including microphones, transmitters, and receivers that attach to our cameras, slide into the back of our cameras, or through the new MI shoe will interface directly with our cameras and provide information to you on the LCD screen of the camera so that you have meters and you have other relevant information with regards to how your audio is performing as you're doing your live production. We have our UWP and our DWZ series of audio for wireless audio. The DWZ series operates more on a 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. The UWP series operates in the traditional RF spectrum. So there are some trade-offs between the two, UWP being the better of the two, in my opinion. DWZ is more affordable, and you can implement it a lot easier, but it can find itself in some areas of distortion depending on the number of units that you have deployed. But there's a number of benefits to implementing any one of those wireless audio solutions, and based on your application, you should really put some research and pay some attention to what professional audio you're actually implementing for your live production and your streaming. And then you have to ask, well, what ties it all together? You know, let's say you are doing a full live production for the web or for delivery via streaming, and this is what would bring it all together, the Anycost Touch. How do you bring all those elements, the video elements, the audio elements, excuse me, your presentations, how do you bring all those different pieces into a single output that's a high quality production output for your viewers to see at home or on the go? And that's where the Anycost Touch comes into play. The Anycost Touch is an all-in-one live production solution. We call it the Live Content Producer. It is a mix of a number of different components, including a video switcher, an audio mixer. It does built-in pan-tilt zoom camera control. You have a built-in video recorder. It also does built-in media playback and built-in web streaming, all from within the Anycost Touch. So It's about the size of a briefcase. It's about the size of, it's 14 pounds in total. It's about this big by this big. Easily fits in the overhead compartment above you, for those of you who travel often. But it's an all-in-one, on-the-go portable solution. It also has a built-in text and title generator. So if you are doing a full production on the fly, and raise your hand if this has never happened to you, where you have someone random who was not supposed to be in your production that day show up, and you absolutely have to capture them because this is the only chance you'll ever get to talk to them. You don't have a graphic ready for them. Well, with this unit, you can actually type graphics on the fly. You can add their name. You can import your own background and type their name and actually have their name placed anywhere on the screen. We support up to 9 languages, and we support built-in templates with transparency, so you can actually quickly and easily create a look where you have a lower thirds with this person's name with your logo on the actual output of the Anycost Touch. So some of the benefits we highlight, especially in the new version 1.3 software, is auto camera tracking. So for situations just like this, where you have a presenter at the very front of the room talking about something exciting like the Anycost Touch, and again, you're a one-person operation. You don't have a dedicated camera person. So with the new auto camera tracking feature, you can actually, it actually takes a snapshot of your presenter's skin tone and the clothing that they're wearing, and it creates a color vector for the presenter. So now it actually creates kind of a virtual fingerprint without the person having to wear any kind of special device. It now follows them back and forth across the stage when it's connected to one of Sony's pan tilt zoom cameras. So using our VSCO protocol, it actually issues the commands to the camera based on the location of the presenter. So I'm sure all of you have been there where the person goes from stage right to stage left multiple times, and then you have that person that stops in the middle and they just all of a sudden decide to do a twirl and go back toward the other direction. You don't want to be back there dealing with that because it looks like you're disconnected from your talent. But you can actually change the speed of the auto camera tracking so that it smoothly and easily follows them across the stage. We also added 720p HD support. We now actually have flexible picture-in-picture configurations as well, so you can do things like dual boxes, so you can have kind of a talking head show or even a political debate if you want to put it that way. We have built-in chroma keying. The media player we already discussed, you have one channel media player, so you can actually now play back content that you've imported from a camera or that you've imported from one of your nonlinear editors. The unit also supports up to 10 hours of recording at 35 megabits per second MXF, which is easily imported into any of the nonlinear editors that are out there. So full 1920 by 1080 program recording of your live production stored on the built-in storage, which can be exported to USB hard drives, can also be used in the media player. So now you can use something that you recorded from the show this morning. Let's say you got a great soundbite. You can actually use that as a source for your live production later in the afternoon. Here's a quick snapshot of what the user interface looks like on the Anycost Touch. This is just one of the main panels. One thing I guess I didn't mention, which is funny, is that the whole operation is done via these dual touchscreens. You have a main panel and a sub panel for touchscreens. And the idea behind the touchscreen is that it feels intuitive. If you think about it, I'm willing to bet each and every person in this room has at least a smartphone that uses a touchscreen for its operation. You might also have a tablet device that of course uses a touchscreen, and you may even have a touchscreen-based PC at home. The idea behind the design of using touchscreens is that for the end user who, let's say, doesn't have a lot of video production background, let's say you find yourself in a scenario where you're in a house of worship or an educational facility and you have a volunteer who hasn't been trained in video production, you want to be able to hand them this device and say, I need you to give me the highest quality product you can, even though you have no experience whatsoever. You give them this device, they spend an hour on it, and they'll actually be able to do that for you because it'll feel intuitive. It'll feel like they're operating a tablet or that they're operating their smartphone. So on the left-hand side of the interface, this is actually going to be your built-in multi-viewer. So all these thumbnails are actually live thumbnails of the Anycost Touch. Whenever you do the inputs to the unit, these become live video thumbnails. You also have still pictures, and your media player can also be here. You also have graphics that you can have supported. The right side of the unit is your options. This is where you'll build up your lower thirds. This is where you'll choose your transition type for the take button. This is where you can import your logos, and when you can actually choose an assortment of effects that again include double boxes and chroma key. There is a dedicated AUX output for the Anycost Touch, so you can feed a program output for the room, and you can feed an AUX output for the web, or you can even feed your program output to the web because you have the ability to change what output goes to the streaming output. This window is your next window. Think of it as your preview window in a traditional switcher, and then there's your program output. That is what is going to air. And then we've also implemented a feature called scenes. Now, this is something that we took a step further to try to make the operator's life that much easier. If you think about a traditional switcher or a traditional live production, when you go from one look where you have, let's say, a double box and you have lower thirds on it, when you transition away from that, chances are you're going to want to transition away to something that looks just as dynamic. You're not going to want to go from this great on-air look to just one channel of video with no graphics on it whatsoever. In a traditional switcher, you would need to have two MEs to kind of create that. You're going to want to transition from one on-air look to another complex on-air look. Well, what we've done here with the scene feature is that we've effectively faked having a second ME because this is a 1 ME switcher. So what you can do on scene number 1, you can have your one on-air look, which has a camera input and lower thirds, which we call titles. On scene number 2, you can have a different input for your background with a logo, and that same camera now minimized into a picture-in-picture box. And you literally transition between this scene and this scene by simply tapping on it on the main touch panel. The same thing occurs with scene number 3. A whole different input in the background. That camera is still in a picture-in-picture, but it's in a different area of the window. A whole different lower thirds and a whole different logo. And the idea is we can now combine things like video inputs, effects, we can combine titles, we can combine logos, we can even have the media player all into a scene, so now you can transition quickly between different scenes and on the fly create your different on-air looks. The one really, really cool thing about scenes too, I should not say the one, but one of the cool things about scenes as well, I mentioned that the Anycost Touch supports pan, tilt, zoom camera control. The scenes will actually support camera locations for your pan, tilt, zoom cameras. So you can create scene number 1, which has talent stage left, and you can create scene number 2, which has talent stage right. When you transition from scene number 1 to scene number 2, the cameras will automatically pan from stage left to stage right on the fly. So again, for a one-person operation, it's a bit of a dream come true. Here's just a quick graphic of the auto tracking. Probably should have had the slide in a better place, but here it is anyway. But the idea is, I think I hopefully explained it pretty well. Person at the front of the room, camera is tracking their location based on skin tone and clothing that they're wearing. And just here's a quick sample system diagram for you of what you can accomplish with the Anycost Touch. So it's not just for consumer or prosumer connections. You can have a mix of broadcast cameras, including studio cameras, as we call them, our pan tilt zoom cameras. You can even have field recorders and field playback devices, and some consumer devices like laptops, and also import video via USB drive into the unit. We also, of course, support professional audio, XLR, TRS inputs, and those can be output to the same complement of devices, projectors, televisions, and of course, streaming to the web or streaming to a local server. So if you have an Adobe Media Server, or if you have a Wowza Media Server, if you use Ustream, we can output to those types of services. But the idea is you want to create the highest quality product coming into the Anycast. So on the output of the Anycast, you also maintain the highest quality product. And that's it. Any questions? I went way over, but any questions? Yes. Yes, the Anycast is here. She does not work for us, I promise. Great segue. The Anycost Touch is here. The Sony booth is in Production Alley. So if you go into the exhibit hall at the back wall to the left, the Anycost Touch is here, in addition to one of our pan-tilt zoom cameras, and the X180 and the X70 cameras are here. Any other questions? All right. Thank you guys very much.